I like the setup. I'd like to do all my talks next to a fridge of wine in the future. So I'm very pleased with this. So thank you so much for inviting me along, Jonathan. And I was trying to think when was the last time I'd done a talk at a meetup, and I think it's been about 4 years, and I can't even remember when the last meetup was that I spoke at. So I'm hoping that this all goes well. So I have had a beer, so you know, who knows. Okay, so this is my talk about navigating the engineering manager path, and I hope you find it useful. Just to introduce myself a bit, because I don't think I've met anybody in this room before, unless I think there was one person I knew that had signed up, and I don't think they're here. So it's lovely to be in a room full of new people. Most of the conferences and meetups I've done talks at in the past have been full of testers, so I've been used to kind of knowing lots of people, but it's really nice to kind of talk to a new crowd. But just a bit about me. I'm an engineering manager at Moneysupermarket. I'm based just down the road in Spinningfields. We're at number 1 Moneysupermarket and number 1 Spinningfields, and got great views from the 16th, 15th floor of that building, so we get all the good views over the city and off into the distance. But I've been in tech for about 20 years now, just over 20 years, and 15 of those I worked in testing and QA roles. Before that I worked in sort of network admin in the days when it was sort of spaghetti cabling and physical server racks and all that kind of thing. So I'm a keen runner, note the use of the word keen, not fast. And most of the talks I've done in the past have been around imposter syndrome and general crippling insecurity. So I'm going to touch on that a bit tonight, but it's not specifically about that. I'm going to talk about my experiences moving into an engineering management role and what I've learned along the way. Some highlights, challenges, and how I've sort of dealt with that. So I don't know if anyone here is from a testing background or works in testing or with testers, but not so long ago the sort of perceived path for testers is, and some developers to some extent, was kind of pretty linear. You'd be a developer and then a senior developer and then principal, or a lead principal, maybe a test manager, head of test, something like that. And these days it feels like it's kind of not quite so clear cut. A lot of places don't have test managers or heads of testing anymore. A lot of things have been brought under general kind of development managers, and it's not quite as clear how to progress. Maybe you want to take a technical leadership, you want to take that technical path, or maybe you want to go into the people management side of things. Or maybe you want to do a bit of both, which can be an interesting split. But if you're interested in that engineering management world, then maybe this will be useful for you. So I was always quite reluctant kind of to get into management. I think I'd been kind of in my career about 14, 15 years before I even got any management experience. I definitely lacked confidence and felt that I didn't know enough, that I wouldn't be any good at the role. I felt that I didn't have enough experience, that I lacked that sort of emotional maturity or awareness to deal with complex situations like conflict, performance management, all those kind of things, and so I kind of definitely shied away from it. I had a real fear of sort of conforming to that stereotype of woman in tech is good at the soft skills side of things, and I really wanted to kind of pursue that technical path and kind of really avoid that, falling into that stereotype. And I eventually was persuaded to do a little bit of line management when the company I was working at took on some university placement students. And so it was a sort of safe to fail environment. It was a sort of unofficial line management capacity, and it enabled me to support them in the time that they were with us, and enabled me to sort of see, actually, this might be something that I could quite enjoy. And I think kind of having that environment where I could take those small steps, have that safe to fail environment, that it wasn't kind of somebody's entire career was sort of dependent on me, and there wasn't that pressure there, was really, really helpful. And it was taking those small steps that got me started in that environment. At the beginning of 2020, I returned from a period of maternity leave. So I got off in 2019 to have my daughter, who is now 3, and the end of January 2020, I went back to work, having been at home with my baby for 9 months, and then approximately 6 weeks later, was back at home with my baby for however many months we were all at home during lockdown, and this time trying to work and trying to think about my role and what I wanted and what was important to me. And like when any big significant events happen, I think it does start you thinking about what is important to you, what you value, and I kind of started to admit to myself that maybe the technical path wasn't something I wanted to follow. And the big reason for that is because I'm going to say the thing that I probably really should say, I really don't enjoy writing code, and I'm not very good at it, to be honest with you. I've written code in various languages to very debatable levels of quality in my time as a tester. And I started thinking about what I did really enjoy in my job, and I enjoyed supporting the teams and the people and helping people with their careers and kind of helping with their kind of delivery side of things. And you know, so what's the next step for me? There was no head of test. There was you know, nothing in that kind of role. So yeah, I started thinking, do I look somewhere else? Do I look for a role at a different company? Could I go into, was there an option for me at Moneysupermarket? And then by enormous coincidence, Moneysupermarket decided that they were going to introduce a new function of engineering management, which we hadn't had before. And previously, all the management, line management of engineers was done by tech leads and test leads. Now, the problem with this was that it made tech leads and test leads very thinly stretched. They couldn't focus on the tech. They were, because they were also doing a lot of line management, the line management experience that a lot of the engineers had was very inconsistent. Some people would have no one-to-ones or no objectives and no career conversations, and other people would have slightly better experience but still didn't know what they needed to do to progress in their careers or get any feedback, and it was quite a difficult situation. So introducing the engineering manager role was an aim to kind of solve that problem and provide that consistent level of support to engineers. We also wanted to try and break down some silos. We had very kind of siloed teams and different teams building things in their own ways and building different customer experiences. And it was it was a very difficult thing to kind of move people across teams if they needed to, and enable people to progress. So I, of course, felt like I was woefully underqualified for this role, but it also sounded really interesting. So, but it won't just be a next step. It's a different role. It would take me completely out of my comfort zone. I wouldn't be managing just solely testers. I'd be managing developers as well. But I'm not from a development background, so how can I support people who, when I've never done their job before, and would they feel like I could support them as well? So it was kind of trying to inspire that confidence in myself and those people and in the people that I was reporting to as well. The remit of the engineering management at Moneysupermarket, just to tell you about that, we obviously support engineers in their careers and in the time that they're with us. We're responsible for building teams, ideally high-performing teams to deliver for our customers, coaching teams in ways of working and delivery, accountability for delivery, and thinking about what good looks like. Do our teams know what good looks like in terms of their system? Do they know when their system is, if there's a problem with it? Do they know whether our users are using it or not? Do they know how to solve problems when something does happen? Recruitment feeds into building those good teams, and community, so that's building up our internal communities as well as interacting with our external communities. I know during COVID, the internal community at Moneysupermarket sort of disappeared really when we were all at home. We didn't have kind of those meetups, we didn't have that face-to-face time, and it was a really difficult situation because we just didn't have that sense of community anymore. I interviewed for the engineering manager role, applied, was very well supported by my manager, and went through the same interview as everyone else who applied and was successful, which was really great. And once a number of us moved into that role, we had a few different priorities. The first one being, who do we manage? So we obviously we had a number of engineers across different teams. We needed to decide who would manage who. We were managing people from our previous roles, And because of the team silos issue, we wanted to make sure that we weren't just assigning an engineering manager to a team and then managing all the people in that team. So we took eventually a sort of partial sort of matrix management approach. So I manage some people in the teams that I work with, but I don't manage all of those people. And I manage some people in other teams that I don't work with day to day. So there's a lot of different context there, and one of the concerns that we raised was around it's a lot of cognitive load, a lot of context for an engineering manager to get hold of and be able to support engineers properly. So we kind of reached a bit of a compromise in that respect and decided that those of us who worked in, say, the customer platform area of the business, which is where I worked, would only manage across teams in that area of the business and not over, for example, our verticals, our home insurance, life insurance teams, to try and kind of keep that context a bit narrower, enable us to provide that level of support. There are obviously arguments for doing things in different ways, but that was the compromise we reached. And we've been going like that for over 18 months now, and I think starting that way has really, really helped us. We've been able to form those long-lasting relationships with the people who are with us, and when they have moved teams now, we find it much easier to support them. How we work together. Engineering management is a completely new function at Moneysupermarket. We had to decide how we're going to work together, how we're going to work as a collective, how often we meet, how often what we document, how we report to senior management. And we had a whole bunch of work to do there, and we're still iterating on it. Something that seems quite simple has been quite tricky for us to sort of get hold of. We meet once a week. We have discussions with we bring our manager and people team into those discussions. We meet with the wider engineering management collective in London and Belfast as well. It's a bit of a tricky one, but we're still working on that one. I think there's still things we can do there. Promotions. One of the big things that we had problems with was around helping people with their career progression. We had a careers framework. The problem was that half of our engineers didn't know what to do with it, how to get promoted, what they needed to do, and so there was a big piece of work for us there. We've been able to sort of share that widely with the engineering team, provide more visibility about how people can progress, and then quite a number of engineers have now been promoted or know what they need to do to get promoted now. It's made things a lot clearer, a lot simpler, and it really supports those career conversations that we're having with our teams. Onboarding. Our onboarding was a mess, and recruitment was a mess as well. We had inconsistent processes across our teams. Different teams would interview in different ways with different people, and the process would be spread over multiple days, and by the time somebody was going for their third interview, they'd been offered by a different company, and it was just a bit of a nightmare. So we overhauled all this to create one really straightforward process, get a pool of interviewers. Now our candidates get a really good experience, they get a consistent experience no matter what team they're interviewing for. And we generally try and just interview for Moneysupermarket as opposed to interviewing for a particular team. And we've also overhauled our onboarding, and so our candidates, people who are starting with us, know exactly what to expect in there, what's expected of them in their first week, in their first month, in their first 3 months. So we're trying to provide people a really good experience in their first few months and encourage people to want to stay with us, which was a problem before. And I think in the 18 months we've been doing that, we haven't really had a bad hire, and it's worked really well for us, and something that we've been heavily involved with as engineering management. Team health as well. What does good look like? Do your teams know why they're doing what they're doing? Do they know the value of what they're doing? Can they see whether our customers are using it? Can they see what problems there are? Can they see, are they enjoying it? Are they having fun as a team? Is it safe to speak up? Problems like that, and we've taken those problems to the team and spoken to them about it. And so we're not just giving our own observations as engineering managers, we're actually engaging the teams and seeing what they think, and do they think they're better than they actually are, and do we need to challenge them on that? And that's been a really interesting exercise to do. So a few things that I've kind of found really helped me. Firstly, identifying the support network. I think moving into this kind of role, you definitely need a sort of support network in place, because there's a lot of responsibility and it can be quite kind of taxing. Having a really great manager who supports you. My manager at the time I was promoted, was very, very supportive, and I still have a really great manager who is really good at working with me on the things I need to do. The EM collective, the people that I work with as part of that collective are probably the biggest support that I've had. We're all learning together. Most of us started the role together at the same time. We may have all been from different backgrounds. Some were developers, some had previous management experience, but none of us had been engineering managers before, and we were all learning together. And I think that's really helped me. I think I've often talked in the past about my imposter syndrome, and when I reflected, I felt like I hadn't felt it quite so much in this role, and I couldn't work out why that was, and then I realised it was because we were all learning together and coming up against the same challenges and solving them. External community, I know a few other testers that have moved into engineering manager roles, even though it's not been a typical path to take, and reaching out to them for support, catching up regularly, that's been a massive help. And other teams within the business as well, our people team, our finance team, the people that feed into the things that we have to do, like recruitment and headcount and promotions and things like that, and it can be a massive support as well. Knowing that I really can't do it all, so up until a few weeks ago I was working 4 days a week. I've also been doing a management qualification for the last 18 months, so essentially working 3.5 days a week and attempting to do a full-time job, and I've definitely got overwhelmed and a bit burnt out over the last kind of year or so. There has been a lot of cognitive load. I've had to start to be quite assertive with my time. I'm not the most assertive person in the world, and really start to push back on things and say, no, I can't do this, no, I'm not available, no, I need to protect my time, I've got something else I need to work on. I'm a serial volunteer if something interesting comes up on careers or community or things like that. I'm like, no, I'll do it. And I've had to sort of rein myself in quite a lot, because you cannot do everything. And hopefully I'm being a better parent, being a better engineering manager, because of it. And I think feeling like I don't have to know all the answers. I think when you're in a lead role, as a tech lead or test lead role, you're sort of looked upon as the expert and the person who should be able to kind of support everything along the way. And I think moving into this role has made me realise that I don't need to do with all that. It's not expected that I know the answers to everything. I can support the team to find, and the individuals to find their own answers. I think because I have so many people to support across so many teams, I think it's the way you have to do things to be able to do the job well. But being from a test background, I'm very good at asking questions. Usually, what some people would consider stupid questions, but I don't really care. But I figured if people can't explain a technical issue to me and help me understand it, then do they really understand it? So it then helps you kind of probe a bit further and break things down. So I think my question asking skills have definitely come in useful there. And I think that's where people from maybe a non-dev background who are quite analytical or from a testing type background, they can really bring those skills to this kind of role. Oops, sorry, just look at my notes. I'm there to sort of help facilitate people's learning and development, make sure having those conversations, those regular check-ins, maybe it might be pairing with people, encourage them to pair with other people, sending them to a conference, giving them those opportunities to learn. So I may not know, I'm not there to teach them how to be a better developer, but I can certainly help support them along the way. And kind of getting good with feedback. So again, supporting across multiple teams, you have to become really good with working with people on feedback, being clear and direct about what people are doing well, what people aren't doing well. It helps supporting those awkward, complex situations if you do performance management, issues with conflict, and ensuring people know what they need to do to progress in their careers as well. I think it's that's something I've had to get much better at, I think, than I was before. And I've had to deal with quite a few complex situations in the last 18 months, so that's something that I'm definitely still working on. Last slide. I think highlights is some of my fellow engineering managers looking like a 90s boy band. Feeling like maybe I'm not such an imposter after all. I felt like that for a long time, but I think when you're with a bunch of people that are also having the same challenges and learning the same things as you, it really helps kind of with those feelings. Opportunities to push myself further, so I'm currently helping support our apprentice recruitment programme, and I've just been running the assessment days for that. I'm also moving into a different team. I'm going to be moving into the wonderful world of platform engineering as their engineering manager. I don't know a lot about platform engineering, so it's going to be fun. And being able to support really great people. Some of my team have been, they've got promotions, and it's wonderful to see them progress. And then I get to work with this awesome bunch, and a few more that have joined us since. So, yes, I feel like I've sped through that because I have 20 slides, but hopefully I'm not overrun too much. Thank you.